Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women Are Worthy show. I am so excited about this guest. Well, she's not a guest. She's really family, okay? This is not her first go around. This is her second go around with the Women Are Worthy show. Well, before I start, I don't want my assistant or my team to give me any problems. So let me do general housekeeping. If you want to join our tribe, please subscribe to the Women Are Worthy Network on YouTube, our Facebook and IG, where the Women Are Worthy show. Now, let me calm down because y'all know when I get excited about it, guess how I can be. So let me calm down. So the Women Are Worthy show, we're honored to have the Honorable Nelly Miles as a guest to our show. Nelly Miles has been employed with the GBI investigation for 21 years. She currently serves as the GBI's Public Affairs Director. She's acting as a liaison between the agency, the media, and the public. Did y'all hear what I said? Director. I said director. The Women Are Worthy show, we welcome Miss Nelly Miles. Hello, Miss Nelly.
Hello, Miss Jacqueline. So happy to be here.
You're not just gorgeous, you're gorgeous, beautiful, and talented, smart. Look, let me admit something right now. And I've been stalking you since the last time you were on the show. And you just we talked about the opioids, and it was just a wonderful show. And I wanted to have someone who had the knowledge, the experience to be on the show to talk about law enforcement, because today's show is titled Females or Women in Law Enforcement. So can you please tell us a little bit about Nelly Miles, and then we'll talk about who you are and what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Nelly Miles. I am a mother, a wife, have 3 small children, grew up in Georgia and went to Emory University, and I studied chemistry there. And that's why, as you know, from before, I was on the show talking about opioids. And so my dream was always to be a doctor. I grew up with that, that sort of passion because I'm first generation. My parents are Nigerian. If you know anything about African parents, you pretty much as a child, we only have pretty much 3 options of what we can do, and that's doctor, lawyer, or teacher. So I picked doctor, and I just pursued that path. And again, I went to Emory, graduated, and after a certain point, I decided that, you know what, I just kind of wanted a break after studying. I mean, I was 20 in my early 20s, and I thought I had worked so hard I needed a break. But 21 years later, I'm still at the GBI. That was my break at that point, and it's been an awesome career so far.
So what led you to the GBI? And, what was it were you watching? Because right now kids are watching CSI and things like that. So what led you to the GBI?
You know what, truth be told, growing up, I just don't remember us having that many forensic types of shows. There was no CSI or Forensic Files. I mean, I remember shows like Magnum PI and Hunter, and there may have been some aspect of forensics, and I know I'm kind of telling my age a little bit, but I honestly did not know what forensic science was. I had no idea. I worked part-time at a restaurant and met somebody who worked at the GBI, and this individual basically said, what are you doing? He was there with his family, and he told me, hey, if you want to consider another option, because I told him I was about to graduate, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to go to medical school yet. But I really wanted to still utilize my chemistry degree because, I mean, a degree like chemistry, all those hours you put in those extra labs, I said, if I'm going to get this degree, I need to use this degree, even if it's for just 2 minutes. And he said, let me tell you about the GBI. I thought he said CDI. I honestly did not even know he said GBI. I'm not kidding you, Jacqueline. And so I called the GBI and I said, oh, it's the GBI. Oh, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. And even growing up in Georgia, I didn't really know what the agency did. Like I knew the FBI. I mean, and I knew local law enforcement. I just wasn't as familiar with the GBI, but I applied, went through a very intense background investigation. So I will tell students out there that there's a serious process, and I'm talking about polygraph tests, background where they interviewed people in my life, credit check. I mean, it is really, really important. Drug testing. We have a lot of people fall out of our background because they're, I mean, smoking marijuana, marijuana, of course, in a lot of states is normalized. And even though the laws are not quite there here in Georgia, but still, we still have we have a lot of people that fall out of that process. And so after going through that process, they offered me a job about 5 or 6 months later. And I said, okay, that sounds interesting. I'll be testing drugs, utilizing my chemistry degree. I'm in the lab. I'm going to court to testify as an expert witness. I always tell people there's no more interesting way to utilize a chemistry degree. And I'm working under the auspice of this wonderful criminal investigative agency, the GBI.
So, okay, you go into a restaurant, he talks to you about that. What do you find fulfilling about your job? You mentioned some things, but what's fulfilling about it? Because I'm telling you, it sounds so exciting. So what do you find fulfilling about your position?
Well, early in my career, working in the lab, I really found that it was always changing. Technology was changing. It was not stagnant. I had an opportunity to really escalate in the career. So I started off as a drug chemist, and then after some years, I went into management. And then, managing people, that's a whole different ball game. And I think you really learn and acquire some great skills that you can utilize for life. How to treat people, how to help people work through, issues and develop people. And I think that was such a great tool because, I've had 3 children while I've been working. And I learned things like, if I wanted to really be successful in the long run, I can't hoard information. I need to pour into other people. So information that I know, if you're my second in command, you know it too. That way, when I leave, even if I step away for a day or if I step away for 3 months, you have that information. So it just really taught me a lot of things. I had an employee that was, she was in a car accident. And, instead of making sure she was okay. Oftentimes, as a manager, you kind of say, well, are you okay? How's the vehicle? But you really need to be concerned about the person because, people don't care what you know if they think you don't care. And so I think that it just taught me a lot of valuable skills. But after 16 years, working in the crime lab, as interesting as it was, I had my eye on public affairs a little bit because towards the end of my stint in forensics, we had a lot of media questions, a lot of inquiries about drug trends. There was a specific drug trend called synthetic cannabinoids. K2 Spice may have heard about it. And so the previous spokespersons, they'd come over and they'd want some assistance in communicating that information. So when you asked me what I found rewarding, I was like, here's an opportunity to inform, to provide information, to engage. I'd go to the Capitol and testify in subcommittee hearings about changing drug laws. I would go to schools to talk to kids about drugs. So I had an opportunity to not just be in the lab, but also represent the agency and give back and educate and inspire other young students, especially women that look like me. And so it's just constantly rewarding. And then, after a while, working in the lab and experimenting with a little bit of what public affairs is. And I will admit, I really got a small taste. I didn't really know all of what I was getting into, but the previous director, Vernon Keenan, appointed me as the public affairs deputy director. That was a new position that they created, and I was appointed in that position. And then a year later, I was promoted and appointed as public affairs director. And so all those things that I told you about, those skills of having how to work with people, how to talk to people, educating people, letting people know what's going on. I was able to take those 16 years in forensics and really just package that into this role that really requires in public affairs, as said liaison, basically a liaison for our state legislature. The GBI, people may know, we have our own agency legislation. And as I'm not technically, it's like a lobbyist, but I'm not a lobbyist. I'm a legislative liaison. I represent the GBI, but I work with our state legislature to get those bills through. I'm, kind of the eyes and ears under the gold dome. If they need anything as it pertains to the GBI during session, I help them out with that. Constituent issues, I, help them get some of their constituent issues taken care of. Also a liaison for the governor's office as matters that pertain to the GBI. But then let's talk about the media. I have to have relationships with the media so that they can help us get information out about what's going on with the GBI, officer involved shootings, murder investigations, sexual assault cases, public corruption, all types of cases. And we're, round the clock, 24/7, these ladies and gentlemen are, out there basically serving and protecting us. And so a lot of people don't understand the GBI is a request agency. And so we have to be requested to initiate an investigation in most crimes. And so just trying to basically educate the public about, what it is we do, what our role is, how we're here to help. And so, the media aspect is very interesting, getting that out, the public policy aspect and getting those laws through and, meeting these other advocates for different causes from, elder abuse to human trafficking and, everything in between. And so it is just, that's just some of it. There's more. There's social media management, and social media, getting information out on social media on the platforms, essentially connecting with the community. We dealt with a lot in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. And, I felt like a lot of progress that had been made between, our communities and law enforcement. We all felt, it was hurtful because we all felt that we had taken a few steps back, all the hard work that we did to try to bridge those gaps. And so we know it's been tough, but it's not over. Okay. The fight's not over. And so, we're here, me as a spokesperson, as a public safety communicator, just to let the public know we care. And we want to make sure that they understand what we do, but also that we want to know what they need. And so I think that it just, it's just I'm in a position to be able to, not just serve as an influence, but really just inform. And, so you can see kind of the human side, even though I'm not sworn myself, but I'm in a law enforcement family after 21 years. Police officers have to claim me. So yeah, it's been a great ride. It's not been without challenges, but it's been very rewarding.
See, in 2021 now, we can do, as women, we can do anything we want to do. But going back to when you first started, were you the first or one of the few women in the GBI in the position you were going for? And also, was it challenging, while you were doing that, or intimidating?
Well, what I would say, I wasn't actually the first woman. We haven't had many public affairs directors. The first one that we had, John Bankhead, he served in this position for 25 years. Great man. He's now retired and, living his best life. And then there was the first woman, her name is Sherry Lang, also retired. She did it a few years more so towards the end of her career. So her time in this role wasn't as long. And then Scott Dutton, who I worked under for a year before he was promoted to a job in the investigative division. So I'm only the fourth person in this role, the second woman. But I'm going to tell you about women in the agency. I said, I knew I was going to talk to you this evening.
Right.
And I knew the title was Women in Law Enforcement. And so I asked our HR director, I said, hey, can you give me some stats on how many women we have, the percentage? And so I'm going to share with you some stats.
Okay.
So the GBI has 3 divisions. So it's going to serve as a little bit of an education piece about the GBI. So about the agents, right? The investigative division. That's the division that when you think about the GBI, that's what you think of. So that division is 40%, almost 41% female. And if you think about historically what you see and know as a cop, you wouldn't think 41%, but we have really great representation. And I'm excited because March is Women's History Month. So I'm thinking and brainstorming, okay, what are we going to do for Women's History Month to highlight these wonderful agents? They're really great and they're really smart. And of course, I'm partial GBI agents, but they're really great. We have some great women at the GBI. The second division, the one that I grew up in, the Division of Forensic Sciences, there's a lot of women. It's 73% women. Most of our forensic scientists are women, and it's heavily saturated with women, great women who are scientists from all different disciplines. Of course, I'm a chemist, There are biologists. My husband is actually the crime lab director, believe it or not. So he's a biologist, yeah, for GBI. So he's a biologist.
Keep it in the
And
family.
yeah, keep it in the family. So you know what the kids are going to be expected to do,
Yes.
right? Okay, I won't start brainwashing them just yet. Maybe a
You
couple
won't
of
have
years
to.
down the road.
Maybe your parents will. You may.
Yeah, yeah,
Your parents
exactly.
will.
Exactly. That's funny. But we've got, chemists, we have biologists, we have a discipline called firearms where they test ballistics. There's a section called trace evidence where they're doing really small amounts of like really tiny, like microscopic evidence. And we have fingerprints or latent prints. And so, we have a variety of services. And once you get in one discipline, then you're trained in that to become, an expert. We don't bop around from discipline to discipline. You want to make sure you gain that level of expertise. So when you go to court, I remember how much pride I took in saying, I've been a forensic chemist for, X number of years. I've worked over X, how many thousands of cases, and I've testified hundreds of times. It just really builds you up as an expert witness. But again, the crime lab's 73%. And then there's the Georgia Crime Information Center, which is another division, and that is 79% women. And so that particular division is responsible, really, I always say it's like the criminal justice highway. I mean, as far as information is concerned. So, they deal a lot with like the background checks and criminal history information. They have a lot. They manage the sex offender registry. So there are a lot of databases, a lot of computers, but a very, very integral part of the criminal justice process. And then we have administration. We tell people that, yes, we have our agents and we need our agents. They're great. They serve a great service, in the state. If you think about criminal investigators, I think we were talking earlier about someone you were maybe mentioning who's working for a sheriff's office. But when you think about criminal investigations and what that takes in Georgia, Metro Atlanta agencies are, a lot of them are fairly large. They have, the level of expertise, and they they usually don't call the GBI to investigate homicides and other crimes like that. They'll call us for officer-involved shootings because they want that independent look, but they have the resources, so we may not get called in a lot of those cases. But outside of Metro Atlanta, they request the GBI a lot. Sometimes I get media inquiries and people are kind of really concerned about, well, why is the GBI here for this? I'm like, by law, it's okay. They can request this if they need, if they need the help. That's what we're here for. But it's a very vital, I would say, a vital part in terms of law enforcement to have that state level criminal investigative agency, if you will. But we have administration, and administration is important. Administration, we won't run. We need human resources. We need staff services because we need to make sure the building is maintained, and kept up. We have an Office of Professional Standards. We have several administrations. Public affairs, my office is a part of administration, and that's 78% women as well. So if you look at the numbers, it looks like the GBI is basically being overrun by women. When you look at it like that, I never thought of it like that. So
what I want to do is in March, if there's a way I can get a breakdown of that, because this all started because of with George Floyd. Okay, I've had several interns and a couple of kids that I'm mentoring. They wanted to go in, females wanted to get into law enforcement, but because of that, it kind of soured them, So that's why I wanted to do the show with you, because we're going to have bad things or bad moments, but we are looking to like I'm part of law enforcement, looking to rectify the situation. And I don't want people to complain. I want people to see how can they go in and help. So that's what I was talking. So that's why I really wanted to do this show, because after George Floyd, it's like a bad taste. And other people have also about the police department and law enforcement, not just the police department, but law enforcement as a whole. But, what I'm, with my mentees, I'm trying to show them, okay, fine, I understand how you feel, but maybe if you go in, you can change the system. You can go in. That's so now so, and when I told them about you and we talked about your bio, they were thoroughly impressed. So I said, you know what, let's just do a show, not just have you come and talk or just do a Zoom or StreamYard with you talking. Let's just, because I'm sure if they are feeling that way, there are other people feeling that way as well. And especially what's going on. And then I showed them what happened at the Capitol, that it was a police officer, you know, that wonderful guy who, you know, tried to stop everything, but see, he was putting his life at risk. So there are good police officers out there. So they were really interested, and I think I kind of changed some of their minds, but don't say anything. But
I mean, I really do appreciate that. And I'm going to tell you, you know, before I came and served as a spokesperson in public affairs, you know, I probably would have understood that a lot more because, you know, I'm working in a crime lab. I did, you know, operate in a silo because I just, you know, we just follow, you know, we follow the evidence, you know, not really picking a side. I didn't really honestly know a whole lot, even though I worked in law enforcement, you know, in the crime lab. I didn't have as much engagement with police officers like I do now, just because, you know, we've got our investigative division. And so, you know, what you don't know, I mean, you don't know, right? And so I understand. I understand those feelings. I can't deny them. I can't discount them. And, you know, people don't really want to hear, oh, well, you know, that's not everybody, one person. Don't judge the entire, you know, the entire profession on the bad acts of one, because I mean, we all know it. One bad apple spoils the bunch. Right. But what I can say, what I've seen, especially working at an agency where a lot of times we are investigating police officers and we arrest police officers. I mean, it's just, I mean, there's a lot. And you go to follow us on social media, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, you're going to see a lot of cases where we've arrested police officers. What I can say is not just at GBI, when I'm, you know, police officers, a lot of my friends are police officers, and that, you know, no one gets more disappointed and upset about a police officer that's not doing what he or she's supposed to do than another police officer, you know? And so what I always encourage people to do is that there's one thing, well, the first thing, a lot of times we see these images, we see these images and we say, okay, just hold on, be patient. We're trying to get to, and you don't want to hear that. But the reality is, when I look at a case and I'm seeing the whole story, I'm seeing everything, and I'm not just seeing a portion of it of what's being placed on TV. And the media, they do, they get the information based on what's released, but oftentimes, because they are open cases, we can't release everything. We can't put everything out, because after it comes to the investigating agency, it has to then go to a prosecutor for them to review and make decisions. So I would say follow the case until the end. Like, don't just go off of what you see on TV. But you need, if you really, really want to get to the bottom of things, you need to follow it. You need to, file an open records request. Look at the whole file. Look at everything. Look at the interviews that were done. I'm not saying that for all the cases, but sometimes there are cases like, we don't understand how this happened. But we're getting only, kind of snippets of what's shown to us, because that's the nature of the beast. So I say follow it. I also say, there are plenty of groups out there that advocate for things. I say, become part of those groups that are doing it in the right manner as far as trying to correct the problem, and talk to your local law enforcement agency. Go set up meetings, have conversations, ask questions, get to know them. The Capitol, Georgia State Capitol, there are a lot of legislators that, they introduce laws, they have constituents. Get to know your legislators. That there are just so many, avenues that, instead of just being frustrated, that you can just take action. In my role, representing the GBI, I'm not going to be out on social media expressing personal opinions and, taking positions and stances and talking about this person should have done that and putting all of that out there. It's not appropriate now. Hey, we'll see. When I retire, I may become the most vocal person out there. Right. So, I know that sometimes, you may want to say, well, why isn't this person standing up? So, in certain positions, it's just not appropriate. We also have our own ongoing cases, and anything that someone in my position does, or even a GBI agent, even a crime lab scientist, they say something, they put it on social media, that can be used in court. Mm-hmm. And it could really mess up a case. And so there's, limited in terms of public positions that can be taken. But I will say that, we understand, the pain. I mean, 2020 was, it was ruthless. Okay. I mean, it was ruthless, but, we're at the place now that we're trying to heal, right? We want to heal and move forward together, but there are definitely ways. But don't give up on police officers. There's so many out there that serve in the community. Remember, when you call 911, someone's at your house trying to break in, you're going to call 911 and they're going to come and you're running towards danger. So I just say that, if I didn't believe this, I just honestly wouldn't do this job. It's really hard to fake this. I'm just going to tell you,
I can imagine.
It would be really hard to fake. And I get frustrated too. You see something on TV, I get frustrated, but I know, okay, let me go I'm gonna go learn more. Let me see what I can get, what kind of information I can get, see the rest of the story.
Well, for me, what I do is in my community, because I'm in the Kennesaw Ackworth area, I love my Kennesaw Police Department.
Yay!
And Department. I love them.
Yeah.
So I was a part of what is it? It's the Citizens Police Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that because I wanted to see what officers go through. And I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
We went through a simulation, and can I tell you, I shot everyone.
Should not laugh.
I have to tell the truth because the adrenaline that you're going through.
Yeah.
And again, I am not saying I'm condoning a lot of bad behavior, but what I am saying, Nelly, I understand.
Thank you.
The wrongful shootings and stuff. Again, I am not condoning, but I understand because when I saw my body count, and I'm like, and I wasn't in that high sense of it was a simulation.
Right.
Wow. So it actually I put myself in their position, in their place. And I'm like, wow, every time they get a call, a domestic, you never know. And these are people who they're underpaid. I'm going to put that out there. They're underpaid and they're going out there to protect and serve, and I just love my police officers. I just love them because Chief Westenberger and Chief Dennis, I always talk about them. I live, breathe Kennesaw. I think I'm really a police officer, No, but I just see it. And what I tell my mentees, no matter where you live, go out and reach out to the police officers because just like, they're human. Say hello. Get to know exactly what you said. That's what I preach this every day. So when people call me and they're like, well, Jackie, you love your police officers, but we don't think yada, yada, yada. You know what? Let's set up a meeting. Speak with the police chief. Get to know, because it starts from the top. The mayor, the police chief. Get to know what he's all about. Don't just look at the color of the skin. Get to know your police officer, because it's great to know when you see someone driving in a patrol car, you can wave, they can wave. If you see them at the store, you can wave. So, I do believe in being respectful to the police officers. And I do understand it. One apple can't spoil the whole bunch. But thank God we don't have bad apples up here that I know about. But I am just saying, and I just have so much faith in my police officers. And I'm sure there are a couple out there, but I have not met with them yet. And I truly respect someone, just like going into the military. You're allowing me to talk to you on the phone. What I'm doing, I'm free. I can do whatever I want to do. In my country, when there's an election on my island, they're killing people. Okay. So I have a different appreciation than most people. So for me, I just love my officers. And that's what I try to, if I'm in Atlanta, I'm always saying, hey, are you okay? Please be safe. I'm sending scriptures like, we need you to be safe, because that's just how I feel. And, I can go on and on and on and on. But so, I respect also what you're doing, Nelly, because like I say, I'm watching you on LinkedIn. I'm constantly double tapping you and seeing what you're doing.
Thank you too.
It takes a lot what you're doing, and we may not see behind the scenes, but you make it look easy. Okay, you make it look. I don't know
Thank
how you
you.
do it, but you make it look easy. And I
Thank you.
was
That's just concealer, but thank you. That's just concealer. That's all that is. That's that matte concealer, okay?
I'm like, I don't care how early, how late. So, and I do believe in giving people their roses, not just women, just giving people their roses, because you may have a bad day, but please know it's a bad moment. It's not a bad day. And there are people who are championing you in what you're doing. So I just want you to know that, because I mean, everyone has great things to say about you. I feel like I'm speaking to a celebrity right now, you know? And
I
so,
just really the human beings that I'm around, they're just really good people. And I just want to really live in this kind of this, space that, yes, I just want to be around positive people, people that are, challenging me to do better and be better. And we have so many in the policing profession that are doing just that. And so you mentioned, these police chiefs who I just really respect, and they're my friends, and they're doing great things. And I can tell you just what you're saying, Jacqueline, about you getting to know your police department and the support and the faith that you have in them. That's what they're looking for,
mhm.
and I know that it goes both ways, but I would just say let's kind of have some grace. Let's get to know each other. We're just, sometimes you got to hit the refresh. I mean, I do it, I try to work out consistently, and then I have a bad few days, and it's just like, uh-oh, time to refresh. And so that's what we're doing in 2021. And that is so warm, and that warms my heart how you explain that, because that's exactly, I mean, that's how I feel. And that's what we're looking for, just for, the community to give us a chance to hit that reset and heal. And we can, I say that people really need to reach out to their law enforcement agencies. It's a little bit difficult. We have these, community officers. In my job, public affairs, we're the community, community affairs, public affairs, social media affairs, legislative affairs, media affairs. So it's a lot rolled into one. So we tend to leverage the resources, and we might, latch on to some of the local agencies because we have that partnership anyway. But in a lot of those police departments, sheriff's offices, they have kind of those community affairs folks that's just what they're doing. And they may have, depending on how small or large they may not have 50 people that can do, something on everybody's street every single night. And so they do what they can to kind of get out there and connect. And obviously, needless to state, it's that much more difficult during a pandemic. So that's why we say, also you need to let it be a two-way street. You reach out to them as well. And I mean, and get to know them and work with them. And even if there's, improvements that you want to see, there's a way to communicate that. There's a process for that, and express that. And so that's the only way that it'll get better. We're not looking for people to just, agree with us all the time and, like all the policies. But, at the end of the day, there is a process. And I think that if we have this healthy dialogue and then try to come up with some really good concrete goals, I think there's definitely a good path forward together.
Because when I was driving one day and I saw one of the police officers, they pulled someone over, gave them a ticket, and they were
Mm-hmm.
talking to the person. You saw the dialogue. The other person, the driver wasn't angry. They
Mm-hmm.
understood. So I called my police chief and said, you know what? Who is this lady in car? Da 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 da. And I said, she was so respectful. I mean, the way she, so he's like, thank you. So you never know who's
Mm-hmm.
watching. And
Yeah.
also, I want people to understand, for me, we started a segment, and we're going to go back to the segment where we would interview police officers. I spoke to my chiefs and I said, hey, you know what? I don't want Kennesaw to be a Ferguson or Ackworth to be a Ferguson, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the chiefs and start interviewing police officers, because I want people, I can't tell you how many times when I'm in a grocery store and a child acts up and the mother says, I'm going to get the police officer on you. I'm going to get the police officer on you. I can't tell you how much it makes me cringe. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, what I wanted it to do, and we're going to go back to that, is to get police officers to come back on the show, interview them, talk about, like, they're human beings outside of their uniforms. Who are they?
Mm-hmm.
What do they like to do? What is their favorite hobby? Because I want to humanize them. Yes, they're humans, but I think some people don't see that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
with the other things that happened, I think it has gone back to that in some cities. But at least in mine, I want to make sure that when you see that officer, you can say hello and how are you doing? Or that's the person I saw on the Women Are Worthy show, and he likes fishing just like I like fishing, something
Right,
like
right,
that. So
right.
I want to get back, and not just in the Kennesaw. I want to do that throughout Henry County and different counties, because
Okay.
I think there isn't a platform really for them, other than if something, if they receive a medal or if something happens. It's one or the other. It's not anything in the middle to talk about with the police officer. I'm not here to say whether you like the police department, but I want to know you as a human being, because you're putting your life on the line. And again, we have the pandemic, and they're still out there. I don't know if I could still be working as a police officer during the pandemic.
Who are you
I'm
telling?
going
Who
to
are
be
you telling?
honest with you, okay? So I think we give them a lot of flack. And I'm all about, if we're going to complain, we also need to compliment. And we're not complimenting enough. And again, this is just, the Women Are Worthy show. These are all my opinions. It's my show, so I can give my opinion. So I just think that we have to meet them halfway, because they would run in burning buildings. They do a lot. And I'm not here saying that they're martyrs, but what I am saying is they're doing a lot that I wouldn't do for you. And I don't even know you,
Yeah, no, you've said a lot of great stuff in that. There's a plenty to unpack. What really stands out to me, that I think is really important, just for all of us to be reminded, is that when you do open up your social media accounts and you see Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and all of these different platforms, and you turn on the TV and something has happened in Kansas, has happened, in California, has happened in South Carolina, New York, Minnesota. What we tend to do is you look at that, and then you basically release this type of emotion. It's kind of sort of, oh God, you're sad, you're mad. And then what we do is then take that and apply that to where we are. So we might take it out on our loved one and get angry, or the next police officer you see is just like, oh, they're all that way. But the reality is we cannot take what's happened, something that's happened 200 miles away, and then directly apply it to our, say, local police department. I mean, it's definitely a great opportunity for us to maybe ask some questions. Okay, well, how do you all handle this? Well, what is your policy for certain types of like investigative techniques? You may want to ask that, and that's fine. But what we often do is just take that, and then next thing we know, we've applied it to what we're dealing with today, and then we're angry. No, we definitely want to process what we're going through, and it's hard. But then to go one step further, then take it out. I mean, when when we had the civil unrest over the summer, and I know there've been a lot of statements made about it, and I'm not going to say anything specific about what people should have done or shouldn't have done. But what I can say is that in all of it, just talking to these police officers, they had rocks and all sort of objects like thrown at them, spit on, just all kinds of stuff. Now, I think that we can agree that that's definitely not the way for us to respond. I mean, absolutely support peaceful protesting, and certainly we can we're not going to go down that road. But I mean, you start throwing rocks and all these different things, and injuring people, and potentially putting yourself in a situation to injure the people around you. That's way across the line. And so I would just say that there are plenty of different ways to try to wrestle with all of the things that we've been seeing. And obviously we know this didn't just start in 2020. This has been long before 2020, for several years, that we've been dealing with dealing with a lot of social justice issues as it surrounds this topic that we're talking about. But certainly I think 2020 just brought us to the point where, in the midst of a global pandemic, all of this happens, and then poof, the perfect storm, it just explodes.
Well, what I did was, oh, okay, I'm going to put it out there. I don't want to say I'm an activist. What I'm going to say is I like to do things. I'm not one to sit down and complain. I want to go, well, I guess it's an activist. I want to go out there and resolve the situation, because I have a small space in this world. I want to make sure I'm doing the best that I can. So this is what I did. I contacted my police chief because, okay, we had George Floyd, we had so many things happening to African American men, right? And I said, I wonder what the white officers feel like, the ones who are not for that, the ones who
Right.
really, how do they feel? Because right now it's like they don't have a voice. It's like, they're lumped into all the other officers. So I asked my police chief, can I come in and speak to the white officers? Because we're not giving them a pep talk. And they have to feel away, because they're probably thinking, oh my God, why did that idiot do that? The officers, why did they do that? Because now, Black people are looking at us like we're all in the same group. Again, that's not what they said. This is what I'm
right. Right.
So I asked my police chief, can I come in and speak to some of the officers? Because I want them to know that I support them. I don't know how many people, maybe of the African American race, has gone over to the police officers, especially the Caucasian ones or the white ones, to say, you know what? I know you're not like that, because I've known you for a while, and I want you to know I support you. Because I wanted them to know this, because yes, we had this whole thing blow up in our face. It was horrible. It was happening to our African American men and women. But I wanted to know, what are the white officers feeling like, where they're like, they're the magnifying glasses are on all of them, but the ones who actually are basically feel the way that we feel. Like, who's talking to them? Who's having conversations and letting them know, thank you for showing up to work every day. Thank you for agreeing that this is not the right thing. Where my police chiefs both said Black Lives Matter. Okay, because that was important for me to hear that. Yes, Blue Lives Matter, but I wanted to hear specifically Black Lives Matter. But I wanted to talk to these police officers, so I did like a little pep talk to let them know there's more people than myself that basically support them. And it turned out really good, because it was like they needed that. So I don't think people were thinking about that. And I'm not saying, oh, I was so smart. It was just, I woke up one day and had an epiphany, and I'm like, I wonder what the white officers, how do they feel in this time? The ones who are standing up for the right issues, the right reasons, and they're protecting me no matter what color I am. How are they feeling right now? They have to feel not good. So it turned out really, really well. I was glad I did that, because I don't know how other officers feel, but I said, if I live here, I'm going to take care of my officers. We have a question. Someone says, what movies or TV shows that accurately depict police work?
That accurately depict police work. Oh, goodness. That's a very good question. And, I've honestly not been, with having small children, I'm really behind on TV shows and movies and all of that. But I particularly like Blue Bloods. I don't know if you read Blue Bloods. I just like that. Now, that doesn't, my opinion doesn't speak for everyone, but I think, one of the reasons why I particularly, like that show is because, they definitely do touch on a lot of, things that are happening, real life, scenarios and incidents that have happened. And I'm sure they draw a lot from current events, but just the way that he, as the commissioner, that Tom Selleck just engages his command staff. I just think I like that. And I don't know what other people would, other, people that are actually police officers and are sworn would say, because for me, coming from the fact that my training, my discipline is in forensics, I can't really think of any like forensic show that I'm just like, oh yeah, that's just like it, because we're always like, oh, we don't, it's not done in like 5 minutes, everything is done, and they flip through commercial and then voila, it's done. So I'm not going to talk about any show, but tends to be like maybe Forensic Files, which is much more, kind of on par with the work, but that's not a TV show. But yeah, I'm gonna pick Blue Bloods.
I love that. It's family, because it's a history of family in law enforcement. Okay, don't get me started on that. Because he is so hot, Tom Selleck. Okay, is my husband around? Okay, let me stay.
I won't tell.
Stay focused. what do you do? Okay, because you're working, how are you balancing family time with your work? That's one question. The second
Mm.
question is, what are you doing for self-care?
Man, who are these people? We need to have some offline discussion. I think that those are two great questions. So, the balancing thing, oh my goodness, that is a constant struggle. Because I mean, each day I'm just trying to be better than I was my last moment. That's always what I'm striving for. So I've been, I really have been kind of, because part of my job is social media, but you pick up that phone, right? And you can start scrolling. And there's this thing we call, for those of us that have the social listen, it's like doom scrolling. And everything is negative tweet.
Yeah.
And so I've actually pulled off of my phone. I recently joined, it's gonna sound kind of crazy. I joined this platform called Clubhouse, and they have,
Yes, I'm
we'll
addicted
talk
to that. We got
we'll,
to
we'll talk more offline.
okay, okay.
But there's just been, like, of course there's some rooms there's like, okay, this is not quite the best fit, but there have been so many rooms we're just having, we're just getting back to the basics of just talking and having conversation. And one of the things that I've really picked up from a lot of people who are highly successful is just that their ability to really time manage properly. So getting back to the question of balance, what I've started to do is, like, the night before, I go ahead and schedule out my day to a T. And so, it's going to improve over time, but literally scheduling in, time with my children, I'm going to start, everything, putting it on the calendar, because what happens is that, you just get overwhelmed with, oh, there's so much to do. And I mean, I'm not perfect here. I mean, there's still a ways to go, but when it comes to the weekends, working in law enforcement, there's going to be times where we're going to have to respond on the weekend, working with the agents, or, they're getting called out on the weekends. I'm having to do press releases. I have had to, go to scenes on the weekends. I mean, all kinds of things that constantly happen. But when I tell you, when there's a moment where nothing is happening, I'm gonna enjoy myself. So that I might read, I might, put my headphones on and just listen to something that's going to basically be positive, that's going to add value to me, something I can learn from, and just really, just step away. I do, I'm an exercise kind of, I won't say exercise nut, but I do run 5Ks with my husband. That's something we do together. Pre-pandemic, we as a family, we did a lot on the weekends. I'm a Delta, and so I've actually recently become active again in Henry County Alumni chapter, and so just involved in other things outside of just GBI. Am I the biggest GBI cheerleader? Absolutely, but with all that's going on, you do have to take a break. But I'd like to, there's a lot of things I like to do to enjoy life. I mean, I enjoy, other stuff like hair and makeup and fashion and all of that, and just doing other things. But I make sure that I schedule it. That's the biggest thing. I'm going to start getting more into trying to really set more, quarterly goals and yearly goals, and planning things out. But I'm that list person, every single day. So before I go to bed, I go ahead and lay out my next day. So that way, when I wake up, I don't feel like I'm scatterbrained. I'm focused on what I need to do, meditation, prayer, just all of that. It's just really stuff that really feeds my soul. And I noticed that where I thought, especially when, I'm trying to deliver all this content, create this content, I mean, I'm like, I think I'm doing okay. I think I'm managing. I think I'm getting by. But then when I'm just like, wow, there's so much more I can be and do and accomplish. And so I'm just excited, because I'm just like, okay, so the balance thing, I work a lot, but I am definitely about it. And I think we touched on the self-care. I mean, I enjoy getting my hair done. I'm not real great on my feet here lately. But exercise is really, really crucial for me. Like I said, I mean, I got my treadmill downstairs, husband's working on the gym and all of that. And I'm big on what I eat. I'm not a perfect eater, but I definitely try to limit my processed foods, drink a lot of water. And I know it's a complete change for me, like how I feel and my level of energy. What I really need to focus on, I was listening to a little talk in Clubhouse today, is my sleep. That is an
Yeah.
area that I'm failing miserably in. I'm going to go ahead and admit it. And, this whole, I think we wear a badge of honor when we say, come around, oh, I can operate on little sleep. Well, I mean, I'm glad I can function, but like long term, what's that doing to my mind? And I just, so I'm just really I got to work on that. So that's going to be a big, element.
Yeah, because sleep, it helps, blood pressure, and people don't understand, you really need that sleep because that's when your cells regenerate. I can go on and on and on and on.
Yeah, the recovery. That's right.
Need that.
Yeah.
So, what book do you have? Two questions again. What book do you have in your library that you would like to read again if you had the time? And what book would you recommend for one to read with regards to whatever it is? I'm not going to say inspirational, motivational. I'm going to read.
Well, right now I am doing, and so far from whatever, I'm reading the Happiness Advantage, and I really enjoy it because it's not like super like, oh, just entertaining, but it's just this guy just talking about his experiences, as a Harvard professor and studying happiness and just really the power of the mind and the mindset. And it, for me, just kind of goes along with what I'm kind of just where I'm at right now as we're moving forward and trying to heal and being positive. So I'm going to say the Happiness Advantage just because it's what I'm reading right now, and I enjoy it. And a book that I'll probably read again, I think the one that comes to me that I haven't read, I read one time, and I really didn't. I honestly wouldn't. As somebody recommended it to me, but I don't know that I would have really thought about it. And I don't know if you've heard it. It's called 72-Hour Hold.
No.
72-Hour Hold. I believe it's Pearl Cleage, if I'm not mistaken. But it's about a young lady who suffered from mental health problems, and had to go through like the 72-hour hold. We put on a 72-hour hold as a person was as she was struggling with mental health. And I think that the mental health factor is just, it's just very critical. And it's something that it's not the easiest to try to figure out how we solve it. But like our organization, we work a lot with this group called NAMI. It's the National Alliance. Yeah, NAMI. And, we're really, the executive director, Kim Jones, we've got a great, friendship with her, and we've had great partnership with her over the years. And we talk about, police involved, incidents, and, how police interact with someone that's suffering from a mental health crisis. And so I just like that because, it's one of those things that we still know that there's a stigma attached to it. So you don't always get to have that open dialogue, but reading that book allowed me to kind of dive deeper into that topic. So that's the one that comes to mind.
Well, I'm definitely going to talk about that because, with other people, I'm going to get the book because I definitely, I have therapy on 411, 911, because the pandemic had done something to my psyche because I'm a people person, hugging and how you doing, and we can't do that anymore. So it's like an elbow bump. And then you have to be, remember, we have to be isolated for a moment, locked down. So it was doing something to my mental status where I thought I was losing it for a minute because it was really bad for me. So I actually reached out, talked to a therapist, and I realized meditation works for me. Because I was not going to do these type of interviews. I was not going to do anything until we were actually allowed to go back in the studio. But then I said, no, Jackie, continue doing this because talking to people such as yourself soothes my soul. It really, because I'm learning something from each and every one of my phenomenal interviews. I'm learning something, and it's something that I can go home and think about, and it resonates. And then people will email me and say, hey, we saw the show. This was phenomenal. And that's not the part I want to feed my ego, but I always want to leave a nugget for someone when they're watching the show, the young girls or someone who's in the middle of changing careers and they may want to go to the GBI or something like that. So I just love what I'm doing. I love the space that I'm in. I want to say, I don't like the word happiness because for me, happiness it's a journey. Joy is a destination for me. So I'm finding joy and just connecting with women such as yourself who And I can definitely attest to this, that you're one of the women out there that it's not a crab in a barrel mentality. It's not a competition. It's
Mm-mm.
collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever information I told you I stalk you. Whatever information you have, you share it. And I hear about it. And that's refreshing because I'm allergic to negativity, so I don't have those negative women around me anyway, because there's
Mm-hmm.
something about me, my
Mm-hmm.
energy, where they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, she's too happy. We don't want to be around."
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
fine. But I just love, because you serve as a model for me, a role model, because this is what women should aspire to be. And I know you don't have it all together. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're showing by your actions, it's what we need to do as women. So that leads me to my next question. Why do you think women should collaborate? Why should we collaborate? And why should women support each other?
Oh, I think that, when I talked about earlier about how that when I have information and how I don't, want to hoard that and I want to share it, there is no doubt about it. Every single time when we collaborate, we are going to be propelled further. Okay. That is the only way for us to really advance. I mean, we cannot, first of all, we've got to be models for our daughters, for those that are coming up under us, because when we leave and we go to the next phase of retirement, we don't want it to all fall apart.
Mhm.
And so I think that our voices combined together, well, they're stronger. And so, it's not just a slogan, stronger together, but we are more powerful together. And, we are a force to be reckoned with. It is, representation matters, and it shouldn't just be one woman at the table, or, one woman in the room. We need to have more female voices. And so, the way that we get in these certain places is for us to work together. Okay. Because when it comes to something, when it's time to make important decisions, you want to make sure that you have a full picture, and you need to have a diverse group that includes women.
Finally, Nelly, how can we support you?
That is a great question. Supporting me sounds I don't know. That's difficult for me, because I don't necessarily want you to support me. I guess I want maybe, support law enforcement. And I guess if you support law enforcement, then you support me. But I will say, I'm on social media. And certainly I would probably encourage everyone to follow me there on social media, because I'm delivering information about what's happening at the GBI. The GBI has social media pages as well. And I can provide that to you. But that's just,
Yes.
just sharing. It's an opportunity. It's not really just sharing, okay, I'm just sharing what I'm doing, but it's more about, who I'm working with. I'm elevating people, like I'm excited because I have a new intern, and she's just amazing, goes to Liberty University. And so I'm getting ready to, on LinkedIn, that'll be my next LinkedIn post. I'm already ready to announce her. So I just really enjoy, elevating other people. And so if I guess supporting me would mean just kind of engaging with me on social media. That's, like I said, that's the easiest way, because we can collaborate and do things. If we need to, if you need to talk to some students and, help some students out, show them the way, give them some information, I think that's the best way to do it. But yeah, supporting me, that's a hard one. They're like, oh, I don't want it to be about me.
Well,
you
I'm
know,
going to be honest, Nelly. When I mean support, because everything you talk about is the GBI. You
I
are the
know.
GBI. And when I say that, wait, let me finish before you interject. When I
Okay.
say that, the GBI is made up of a team of people.
Yeah.
So when I see Nelly, where it's not just Nelly, her husband, her family, I really see Nelly GBI.
Hmm.
So supporting you, what I'm thinking is also supporting the GBI. So that's why I'm asking, how can we support
That's
you? Because
true.
you're the epitome of the GBI. You and others, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people around. So, because whenever you're talking, it's the GBI, GBI, GBI.
Hmm.
So you don't really talk about yourself. I've never heard you talk, even on social media. It's never been about yourself. It's always about the GBI. So you're a
Hmm.
great representative of the GBI. So that's what I meant, and I should have clarified that. Like,
Oh,
how
no, that's great. That's great.
that's how I see you.
No, I appreciate it. You just have such an amazing platform. And you're just doing wonderful things. I think that just the way that you do it, how you take action, you're just not words. So I would, certainly encourage everyone to go and, just like I said, follow the agency, follow the pages. There's just kind of this sect that actually we're coming out of, that even on social media, there was just a lot of negative energy about it. It didn't matter, what side of the political spectrum you were on, what your beliefs were on. We just kind of get out there and we just start, complaining and, trolling accounts. So, what I'll ask now that I've had an opportunity, go to the GBI pages. If you see something you like, comment, follow us, like us, comment, because what happens is that people they go to, even like local law enforcement, they have social media pages too, and they have managers. This is really important because a lot of people turn to social media when they want to know what's going on. And the agencies, law enforcement today, we are on social media, but we get so much negative feedback, these days, especially in 2020 with everything that's going on. So just go drop a nice note, a supportive note. Go out there and give some status love. Tell them, you appreciate what they do, or, great job on that case. Thanks for locking that child predator up. I think that's important. And we get a lot of those comments. I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't, thank the people that are so supportive. But that's nice, because you know what? Everybody sees that. Everyone sees that. People see that. And they may not comment, but they see the negative stuff. They see the positive stuff too. But what I'm trying to do is strike this, let's see if we can push down the negative comments. Because if you have a legitimate question, ask it. We work, hard to try to respond to those questions. But
what is what is their handle on Twitter?
Okay, so the GBI handle on Twitter is GBI_GA. My handle on Twitter is N Miles GBIPIO.
Okay.
Instagram is GBI_GA. And then I'm at N Miles PIO.
Okay. What I'm going to do is when we edit this, I'm going to have them have it scrolling across.
Okay.
Social media, so they can scroll it across. So we'll do that. But
awesome.
It's just been a pleasure talking to you. It's like I spoke with you last week, and it was like maybe 2-3 years ago that we spoke. And you just come with this. You have this effervescence. I love that word. Effervescence.
Good word.
Smile, and you just have that energy, that light about you. So, and you represented. I'm telling you, I just love law enforcement. I can only speak about where I'm living right now. I'm loving it. The GBI, I'm loving it, and what you're doing. And I'm definitely going to go on and comment, because so often, sometimes when people who are working the GBI, they see that sometimes the negative stays with you and the positive doesn't, because we focus on the negative. So I'm going to encourage, the people that I know to just go in and comment if they see a case that came, that they thought was great, or if people are telling me, hey, did you see that happened? I'm going to remind them, could you just go on the GBI and just show some love, because they need to see that too. So I'll definitely get that word out as well. Okay?
Thank you. It was such a great question, and I've never thought about it that way. And what I've asked of you, I've never told anyone that. But I'm like, oh no, actually, that would be great if you could do that. That would be the best way to support us.
Well, I'm definitely going to do that. So without further ado, we want to thank everyone for tuning into the Women Are Worthy show. And please go to our YouTube channel. Hi, Miss Wilborn. Go to our YouTube channel and follow us on YouTube. It's the Women Are Worthy Network. Like and subscribe us on Instagram and Facebook. It's the Women Are Worthy Show. We're going to be, when I tell y'all, we have some things planned. I'm hoping this Henry County thing comes through. Mr. Henry Johnson, I know you watching. So you need to get that together, okay? With that, also I want to remind everyone, if you see a police officer, tell him hello, ask him how his day is going. I mean, I promise you, when you do it, the smiles on their faces, it's like ridiculous. Like, oh my God, are you talking to me? That kind of thing. So, and if you see them at a coffee shop, this is me, not her, buy them a cup of coffee. You know, just because that's what I do with my veterans. Whenever I see veterans, and I tell my interns to do the same thing, or just say hello. Just say hello. Get to know your local law enforcement who's in your community. Don't wait for something to happen and then you know who they are. So please reach out. If you see them in a car and you're walking by, say hello. Just brighten up their day. That's all I'm asking. So that was my pitch, but I really mean it because I just love them. So without further ado, again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Today is a wonderful, I want you to have a terrific Thursday, a fabulous Friday, and please make time for self-care. Ooh, Nelly, I'm going to get you on that one. So thank you and have a lovely evening, everyone. Bye-bye.